In Saturday's video, we were going over some of those bigger timeframes and showing how this market could really move going into 2025. And the thing we needed to see in order for us to get really bearish and say, hey, a crash is high probability is going to be the Qs. And we noticed that that has not happened yet. So the shorter timeframes are going to be important. Today, we are going to give you the weekly expected moves, the daily expected moves for tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about how we could maybe use those weekly and daily expected moves to find some trade setups. So let's get into it. Starting off on a 2-hour for the SPY, there's one thing I did want to mention here, and it's we need to be watching out for traps. If we look where those weekly expected moves are, they are in some serious areas that we could see some buyers step in, but we could also see some sellers step in. So we need to be watching out for traps. Maybe the first direction is not going to be the right one. Maybe the first direction to the upside might not be the right one. So we're watching out for traps. Now, why are we doing that? Well, because at the end of the day, we're really figuring out which direction this wants to go. Does it want to exceed this high, or do we want to crash outside of our channel? And that's why we need to be very, very open to traps this week in both directions. Okay, so we're going to be paying attention to these weekly expected moves first, and we have 604.82 to the upside, and you have 585.20 to the downside. We notice very plainly that this 2-hour has not crossed, but if it was going to cross, wouldn't it be nice for it to go to the buy zone, go all the way down to a weekly expected move, and set up a point of divergence for a double bottom? This is the look we were mentioning at the end of last week when we called out, hey, there is some serious resistance right here. Big drop down. If this is going to be some kind of 1, 2, 3 little move down into our buy zone, this is a very, very stable base. This is where you will actually most likely see a squeeze if you can confirm that type of look as a base. I just want you to be very aware of that. Now for Monday, you do have 599.43 to the upside and 590.59 to the downside. So obviously we notice that this is towards the wick. So okay, that would be exceeding the low. That would get us into our buy zone. Maybe we have a straight shot to a weekly expected move, and the monthly expected move is about to change, right? So in a couple of days, we will be updating Patreon with the monthly expected moves. But if this 2-hour never crosses, maybe we're going to head to the upside first, okay? So the cool part about this right here is we know that 600 level is very, very important. And what do you notice? You have a daily expected move right by it. So if we look at this 30-minute, it is negative and it wants to turn up into positive territory as far as it goes right now. It seems like it is trying to curl back up, but we're rejecting right now, right? We're really struggling to keep that 5, right? We take it back for a day, we give it up for a day. A lot of people calling out some type of potential for island reversal and things like that. So what we want to pay attention to for Monday, if we're going to see a trap early on, is if we curl up, and actually we could even head up to the weekly expected move early on and see some kind of 30-minute divergence here. That is something that I would be very aware of, but we can notice that the daily expected move might come in first, right? We have plenty of things that can happen around this daily expected move. This could be some kind of drop down to this level. We come up to here, and doesn't that look a little bit like a cup and handle to shoot us downward? So this is why in the shorter time frames going into this week, it's going to be very important to react. Don't try to predict what's happening, because you can notice just from me talking about the SPY on a 2-hour and 30-minute chart, there are like 4 or 5 different ways this could play out. And the reason for that is because your weekly expected moves are in such key areas, right? One of them is in a buy zone. One of them is in the liquidity that actually shot us to the downside the last time. So we got to be watching out for traps, and we got to be reacting. The Qs, let's do this a little bit backwards, a 30-minute down in negative territory. So the first thing is it is negative, so I have to be open to a lower high, and that daily expected move is going to help me. So you do have 534.11 to the upside and 511.01 to the downside for the weekly expected move. This is our 68% zone. 32% of the time you'll land outside that, and that holds true as well for the daily, and that's a decent sized daily move. Qs actually have more volatility in them for sure than the SPY this week. So tech stock's most likely going to see some rip arounds. We got some high IV again for Tesla, again, like every single week. But we do have 527.96 to the upside for the daily expected move, and we have 517.16 to the downside. So something we'll pay attention to is if this curls up and we're able to break through, and maybe we even reach a little bit higher, we got to be watching out for divergence. This is still very, very controlled. If you really draw it out like this, you're going, this is still a controlled little channel up, and who's to say that's not some kind of massive flag at this point? So we'll pay attention to it. But for the most part in these areas, we have a few ways that this could head down. And really only one way that I think it heads up. It's if it, or two ways, I guess, if you want to say it that way. This has to burst through and we have to see something crazy. That's one of the ways that this can head in the upward direction and you see new all-time highs. That's the truth there. Now, the other way that this can head in the upward direction is the 2-hour chart, right? The 2-hour has dipped down. This would be that, hey, we're going to burst up and head higher, making this a higher low. That would be curling up the 2-hour MACD. But if this has still more work to be done and we go lower, we could create that strong base. And this is the best way for the market to head higher over time. Because if you do this, you have a chance for a run that could last for weeks, okay? You could have a bull run for a few weeks. But if you're just going to go now, you have the opportunity to set that trap early on in the month or in the second week of the month. So that's something that we'll pay attention to. But the real scenarios to head higher are, is this going to be a higher low and we're just going to shoot up and then we might run into problems? Or are we going to make this a firm base and then turn to the upside to really solidify like, hey, we want to go higher from this area? So that would be how we get bullish. The bearish things, there's a ton of ways for this to fall down. You can see it in structure with a head and shoulders potentially popping up. This could, this is negative. So if this pops up, it is likely to be a lower high. And guess what? That daily expected move might hold as resistance and that's it. And people might be right to call out the Qs as island reversal here. So we'll pay attention to it. But if you want this to even get bullish, if we get to that weekly expected move too quick, you're going to have divergence, and that's where that flagging can really come into play. So you are in I'm not going to lie to you, it seems like there are a lot of ways where we're sitting right now with price. There's a lot of ways this could play out, and I'm not someone that's just going to lie to you and tell you what I believe can happen, because the truth is we need to be reactionary this week and we need to be watching out for traps. And I think if we're patient, we could actually see a good setup. If we're patient, maybe we do see this pop down to lower levels and we see a double bottom, and then we get one of the best opportunities, or the first great opportunity of 2025 for a great trade setup. Apple, I mainly wanted to talk about the 2-hour chart and how we violated this point on for the divergence on the MACD. Now, you didn't violate that. I don't think you did for the RSI. So something that could happen here is this could continue to fall, maybe to make something like this. So something like this in the past was able to, gain that double bottom to head higher, and that's something that could happen here. But maybe we need to head in the upward direction first. Now, the reason I'm going to say that is because, yes, we are below the 5, but if this 30-minute curls up, I don't think you had the best reversal signals here for the 30-minute to tell you like, hey, the 2-hour is going to have extreme weakness. So I think you have the opportunity for one more trap to the upside. Now we'll see how this plays out, but that is just something I would be aware of. If this is going to be bullish, well, the 30 minutes is just going to curl up, and look, positive territories right there. So testing the high, going to make a new one would be great. This is where Patreon can really help you out and say, hey, there is a weekly expected move upside right here. You make a sporadic move like this and you see some weakness. Well, now you have an actual reversal signal on a 30-minute, and it's a great trade setup as volatility is seeing some big reactions. Just to go back over to the 2-hour, though, you could be in pullback mode right now, right? We could easily see how this thing would want to drop down over time. With all these 2-hour divergences, you can curl down daily charts. And it really looks like you need a daily pullback. So if you're going to pull back, where would you most likely go to? You'd really like a test of the 20, right? We would really like a test of the 20, and then we'll see if we can head in the upward direction. Something that I do think is coming for Apple very soon is this right here. I think eventually we will see a big drop to retest 236.36, and that's why I think it's very important to pay attention to traps with where Apple is at right now. I think you have the potential where if we get one push higher very early on in January, I would be a little bit more leaning towards, I would really be leaning towards taking my foot off of the bull gas if it happens really, really quickly into January. Tesla, one of the ones showing, hey, I'm trying to get that lower high. Most likely this could be some kind of ABC pattern to go where? Well, first we want to see it touch that 20. We want to see how it reacts around that 20 and if we get any reversal signals. But I just want to point out the daily chart and how that is saying a pullback would be a good thing. A pullback is most likely going to come all the way down to somewhere around 360. All right, that would be a very healthy thing. Retest that breakout area, then you can head higher, maybe even create some structure on the way up. This would be overall what I see as an opportunity on the daily scale, but we have a lot of time where this could still move around up in here before you actually get that test. But anytime you get that reaction down to 360, look for reversal signals there, because that is a great area for Tesla to bounce from. And truly, Tesla has been great, so it can continue to be great. It's curled up on monthly scales. The 2-hour has confirmed down here. So this is a big problem going into early next week. Is Tesla is saying the most likely thing as this tries to dip into negative territory is downside, and this could be some kind of ABC pattern. You want to know where that downside stops? Well, that's where the weekly expected moves can really help you. If you have a weekly expected move here, you see it dip down like this, and then you see it curl back up into positive territory, hey, you might actually have a little 4-hour trade setup, right? We might see the 4-hour able to get down to these levels, then curl up into positive territory, and guess what? You might have yourself the next move higher for Tesla. So we're paying attention to that. We're seeing what is going to happen going forward. As far as if this thing is going to head up right away, well, then you need this 2-hour to turn up right now. You pretty much need this 2-hour to turn up early on in the week to see a big positive move to the upside. Sorry guys, my dog was whining. It was really annoying me. Just to finish up on Tesla, do you see how great this base is? This is a great base, and we're there right now. So if we're going to get that 2-hour to turn up, that would be fantastic. I just want to see if this 30-minute can turn up first and take back the 5 and go positive, and that's a lot to do. So if we're going to see this break down, we can probably see how this is a left head, and if that curls up and fails, that is what I'd be paying attention to on the shortest time frame I really like, which is the 30-minute. Amazon, I'm very interested to see what this wants to do, because Amazon on the daily has been pulling back. It's actually pulled back pretty well, and it keeps getting these retests of the 20. So I'm wondering if Amazon is trying to pile up into here to actually go to the upside. And something that can really help me with that, if I really want to see, hey, is that daily maybe going to curl up and test this high, go make a new one? I'd actually really want to be paying attention to this 2-hour. Look at that 2-hour really, really close to the center line. We got another dip down, almost creating a divergence point, but really it is at this moment trying to be, I would say, a higher low. So if that's going to give you a higher low, then that's going to say, hey, all of this right here could be a strong base. You guys know divergences are great. We point them out all the time, but a higher low is just as good. Like a higher low is just as good. You should be paying attention to those as well, because things don't always base out with divergence. Sometimes they base out with a higher low. Sometimes they V-shape. That's why we pay attention to swing trading as well. But we're not necessarily paying attention to swing trading right now, because we're looking for the structure that can curl up bigger time frames, 4 hours and daily charts. So from Amazon, I'd really be looking if this 2-hour is going to confirm up. Now we can look at the 30-minute and look how freaking flaggy that is right now. So this would have to catch some positivity. It is curling up at the end of the week, so we'll see if that can continue. If it rejects off that 5 or it keeps this very, very controlled 30-minute look, then you are very likely to see this just get up to the center line and cross down. And this would be a very tight divergence. We made a tight divergence in the past for this positive move here. But I would just really be paying attention to if that is brief, hey, that might be an opportunity. But since it is so tight in here, this could be a drop that you really want to be aware. If that drops down, this can get a little bit uglier for Amazon. So you're kind of hoping for that base to come pretty quick, or you're hoping for the 2-hour to just see some positivity early on in the week for Amazon. NVIDIA has been very interesting because of the head and shoulders. Everyone calling for the absolute collapse of NVIDIA pretty much with this head and shoulders. And I'm just like, head and shoulders play out in a million different ways, guys. You have to be paying attention to signals with head and shoulders. It is one of the most common things to pop up all the time, which means it's going to have a million different ways to play out. So this could even be still playing out the head and shoulders now, because we notice a lot of the time when it breaks, you get that reaction for almost like a lip on the end, and then it falls back down. So pay attention if this daily rolls, right? If we roll on that daily, you know, this was overall a small move into negative territory, but if you roll down into negative territory from here, you're looking at one of these moments, right? You're looking at one of these where it can drop a lot more significant. So we're paying attention to the fact that this is crossed up though, and this is a good thing. We've actually done very, very well with NVIDIA. We were some of the people saying, hey, if the market's really crashing, then why is NVIDIA holding up so well here? Let's look at the 2-hour, see if that 2-hour can curl up. Then you can break through. You can go up to test 140, 112, and then you're probably going to get a retest. And all of this is happening, and it even went to retest not just the broken trend line, but it actually retest our 135, which is what we were leaning towards. So if everything that we were leaning toward is starting to play out for NVIDIA, shouldn't we just keep on the same thing, right? Shouldn't we just look at the next thing we were talking about? And that's the fact that the daily is crossing up. We got the retest. So what's the next step here? Well, the 30-minute has to curl back up, right? We were looking for that 30-minute to go retest down in this area and then be able to see some good positivity, curl up on that MACD, go positive, get us past 140, 112, The only problem is we're still controlled. It's a lot like Amazon. We're very controlled here. So if that remains controlled and then that turns down, this could be the first bigger push down into negative territory for the 30-minute. You could end up down to these levels, get a big reaction because people try to buy that dip, and then you head down and look at this head and shoulders that no one is mentioning, right? So we're going to be aware of that. But overall, we were stating if this 30-minute can turn up and take back that 5-day moving average, that would lean us towards, if that can go positive especially, hey, we can take out this high, maybe go make a new one. It's going to be very important to pay attention to weekly expected moves for NVIDIA, because if this weekly expected move is anywhere towards 140, 112, and we see a big move early on in the week, and then we see that going into January 1st, I would be very, very cautious, because that is a divergence. That is what we were looking for weakness, because this is very likely to be a lower high. It still is likely to be a lower high, but we were paying attention to if this is going to make 30-minute and 2-hour divergences somewhere towards 140, 112. So let's look at the 2-hour. You notice that that is curling down. So even if this wanted to buy more time, get this to dip down a little further, then it pops up, we'll pay attention if any little reversal signal pops up here. Okay, that's going to really help us out going forward from anything bad that's going to happen. Because the last time that really started to pop up was, oh, right here, and then double top. And the double top led to a major flush, right? So we don't want that to happen to us. So we're going to be paying attention for weakness in this area. We're going to be paying attention if this 30-minute just crosses up and crosses back down. I think managing risk with NVIDIA is going to be important. And it does mean, hey, NVIDIA could be an opportunity right now, right? If I'm in a daily swing trade right now, I'm still pretty happy with this overall. Right? I saw a great move up. Maybe I even said, hey, 140, 112 is where I take some off the table, and then I reload after we retest 135, which was pretty much the plan with the trade. And then you retest 135, you see that positivity. You're like, okay, if that 30-minute can curl up, I'm back in this, and then we'll see if we can make a move past 140, 112, and then I'll pay attention to reversal signals, right? We have a plan going forward in this overall move, and we were people that were talking about that way down here. So the plan is overall playing out. We'll see how it wants to go from here, because it really has gone the whole step of our plan. And at this point, we're looking for the last piece, which the last piece would be, hey, we're going to pop up here and maybe set a trap. And that's really what I'm leaning towards for NVIDIA going into early January. If it wants to completely wipe that out and see some positive price action, then those are not going to happen. That is not going to play out. We're going to continue to curl up into positive territory for NVIDIA. Now we're getting to Meta, which is a stock that I actually really liked the setup down here. And it actually is, look at that wig, it is really holding up better. Now the reason that we're a little bit cautious with Meta is the daily divergence, right? We have daily divergence, very obvious on the MACD and RSI. You can pop that up for yourself. But the 2-hour here is what we were looking at, because we had great 30-minute signals here. And I just wanted to point out real quickly on the 2-hour that that is taking back 598.41, and we're rejecting the cross down on the MACD. Now that can change a lot tomorrow. This could be to grab liquidity to just head a little bit lower, and then we'll watch out for that reversal signal on the 2-hour, right? We'll probably if this is able to go to like a weekly expected move or something like that, we probably will see some kind of 2-hour divergence, and Meta could be a great base, because you have 30-minute over here, you have 2-hour over here completing. This would be a very strong base to see an upward move over time, and that's where the move can really extend in January. Now, if we're going to head up right away, you're going to want to pay attention to the 30-minute. We're going to want to pay attention pretty close, because this is a decent setup here. It's a decent look. You have a very, very deep pull down into this area as we react up to the key level. So we're reacting up to the key level, and we're seeing that surge of positivity. Now, we talked about Amazon and NVIDIA, how they're both flagging like this. Well, we noticed that at least for how Meta is going, it's able to completely violate that with that move. And that's what you want to see for a lot of these stocks. You want to see moves like this. It does lean me more towards the bullish side, because we just got that crossing of the MACD on this positive green bar, and that's closing at the high of the day. So that could end up extending higher to test these levels, go make a new high. That's where weekly expected moves will help. And maybe this is going to play out all the way to 617.82, and we can look for reversal signals up there, because once you are up there, remember, it has daily divergence. So if it wants to go grab liquidity and head down, that would be a big problem. So something that you want this to do is not get overexcited in this area. You probably want it to get a great reaction, then reload, and able to see another great reaction to get through a lot of the liquidity in this area for Meta. Those are the main things I'd be paying attention to. But for Meta, it can really show us how one really good bar can really start to violate a lot of the flagging going on a lot of these charts. And so that's something we'll look out for. This is going to be one of the most important charts because this is Microsoft, and I was shouting out Microsoft a lot. At first, we were shouting it out for the potential for a good bounce. Well, that was kind of a lackluster bounce, and you see that cross back down through the center line to go back into our buy zone. Now that happened on a gap, so kind of difficult there, but you saw the lackluster positivity. There was never that surge from the 2 hour to really say like, yeah, I really want to go higher here. Just a simple curl up on a negative bar and then two very lackluster bars. You know, it's just not the best setup, and it's kind of unfortunate because it can be hard to manage risk with a setup like that. But we'll notice that we're going back down in this zone here, and I just want to pull up the MACD and RSI with you to see if that is holding any kind of divergence. We notice, what is that? That is a flat divergence down here at the low, if not a tiny bit down, but pretty flat there. I think that is some weakening in momentum, but I don't know if I'd call that divergence on the MACD. And on the RSI, you have a similar situation where it's like really trying to be flat, but it's not necessarily showing the divergence. So weirdly enough, you don't have divergence here, but I think we still need to pay attention as that is a double dip into a buy zone for that crossing up. And if that crosses up, you can easily see how it wants to head higher over time. So this could be an opportunity for the daily scale to actually flip back up here. Now, the reason that we were leaning towards stocks like Microsoft to see another daily curl up is because this did not necessarily have the best divergence here. We don't have divergence anywhere in these areas really. So to say that this is just one push high and then we're going to dip down and then just keep failing, it doesn't hold too much ground for me. I really think the way that these things like to move, it is likely to at least see some kind of upward move here. And then we'll see if it can cross up this MACD for a brief moment. And if we take out this high, go make a new one, I would be watching out for daily divergence from Microsoft, because I think if we do get that surge very early on in January, we need to be paying attention for weakness, because I think there's a lot of risk going into January for at least some type of corrective move. For AMC, the ultimate signal you're looking for is the daily to cross up. We see daily divergence, just so you are aware. I'm not going to go back and show you. We've done it multiple times for AMC. This is the exact look it had before it saw a crazy run, right? When this actually confirmed on the daily scale, you had a few days, a couple of weeks, and then that thing popped off. So you are at the verge of a potential melt up here for AMC, in my opinion. Now we can look at the shorter time frames to figure that out, but we can also just say, hey, if the daily divergence does end up confirming and we get past 452 while making that divergence, that's going to be a great sign for AMC going forward. But that's your updated level right there, 452. So that is the fight level. This is where the short sellers will step in, and that's very plain to see once we look at GameStop. I'm going to pull that up in a moment. Something we were looking for is, well, the fact that this is trying to hold in this area is pretty good, but is it going to be continuation or is it going to be a reversal? So we'll see if that ends up breaking through and happening here. But I just wanted you to be aware, if the 2 hour does curl down, you do have some room to the downside. Now, I've connected the points between these lows to see if it wants to react down, and we have a weekly expected move for AMC down there. So if you do see some weakness going forward, we could curl down on this MACD and make some kind of steep divergence, which would lead to some potential for some good positivity. I mean, look at the last time that we made a 2 hour divergence right here, ended up being the low, and then we saw that thing start to melt up. So I think you are on the verge of a melt up, but is this a strong enough base at this point? And maybe I can just pay attention to a daily chart to make a decision with AMC. When we pop over to GME, first of all, I wanted to leave up the last weekly expected move, right? Because everyone's saying, oh, yes, it's surging. And this is what you want to see. You want to see it trying to break through those levels, but it's happening on a Thursday. You want that to happen very early on in the week and then continue to see something crazy. This is where the fight begins. Wherever the purple line is, whenever I'm doing one of these videos or you're watching the live show, wherever the purple line is, you should treat as a fight zone, really. This is a fight zone. zone between the options market, between the market makers, between buyers and sellers. This is where it's really going to happen. And so this is what we paid attention to last week. And everyone's saying, yeah, this is surging up. And I go, yeah, I want to see how it behaves above 32.79. And that is clamped down on. So this is a good sign. It hasn't curled over on the 2 hour yet, but you are starting to pop up, not a divergence on the MACD, but a slight, very, very minimal one on the RSI, which just tells us, ooh, we could actually experience some kind of daily pullback. Now, if that daily does cross down, that is where you should get worried. This means that GME can see dramatic downside, not upside. Now, this will pop up before you see something crazy a lot of the time. You're going to see a divergence, and what you're hoping is that does not cross down, because if this surges to the upside, this is going to get wiped out. So if you want something crazy to happen, you do not want the daily MACD to confirm this down. You do not want GME to start closing below that 9 and that 20, because that means you're most likely going to violate 28.35, and you might be in some kind of pattern to start to make another base in the future. So that's something I wanted to bring up with GME. But if we want to see something crazy this week, well, then we got to get through 36.16. So 36.16 is going to be your fight level. Notice that is moving up. 2 weeks ago, it was a level of about 30. 30 was the very important level. Then 2 weeks ago, also 32 was the important level. Then going into last week, 35 was actually the call wall. So we did not necessarily get there, but closing above 32 is great. We're raising that ceiling, which is fantastic, because it's going to be very difficult for this to completely break down here. This could pull back, not curl down the MACD, and do all of that. So we're paying attention to it. To go into a 2 hour here, just to show you again that divergence that is on the RSI, and then to go into a 30-minute to show how the positivity can continue, right? We just talked about a lot of bearish things, so let's talk about a bullish thing, because these things can move in any direction. We're just waiting for confirmations to make a decision. Trust your indicators. We notice that. What do we do a lot of the time throughout this move? We're really gaining ground at the 5-day moving average almost every single time, and this one's actually holding up better. So if the 30-minute does curl up, we'll watch for that positivity. Something you want to be aware of is if that positivity is brief, right? If that move fails. What we want to see from GameStop, as it is going into a Monday and Tuesday, that's where we want to see crazy price action. You want to see this go through the roof this week. If you really want something to happen, this is the best it's ever looked, and this is where you really want that moment to happen, because if it's a lackluster move, you see the fight begin, and then that curls down again, you have a reversal signal, which is not a good sign for GameStop. So 30-minute curling up would be a good thing. 2 hour curling down would be a bad thing, because it has a divergence there on the RSI. Honorable mention to FFIE. Now, I'm not going to break this down a ton. All I was paying attention to was the fact that it was trying to make some kind of floor, and my short sale theory. So I am still testing my short sale theory. My short sale theory actually triggered right here on December 24th, and that's actually where I took this play. So December 24th is where that triggered, and now I'm doing my test. So I'll tell you guys how it is going into Monday. But just to look at this, I just want to see what the last move looked like. Well, it made a flat base, It saw 1 day of extreme positivity of about 30 to 32%, and what is this here? 33%. So it looks very identical, and the short sale theory that I'm creating, or I'm really testing right now, is why I'm in this play, why I was able to get in early with a reversal signal. So this is just one I wanted to shout out. This is something I'm testing, and I will talk to you guys more about it. But let's pop over to volatility. All right, we already talked about the daily or the dollar on the daily scale. So let's just go over volatility on some shorter time frames. So the thing we're looking for here, if we're going to get a moment of positivity, and this is where you have to be open to something sketchy happening early on in January, is if we see a rapid move down from the 2 hour and then we end up making divergences down at 12.12, that's going to be huge. Or if we react down from the 2 hour and see a reaction not towards 12.12, because we could create a 2 hour divergence, and 2 hour divergence likes to flip up daily MACDs. So we look at the daily again and we go, oh, that's crossing down, but it's on a positive bar. It is below the 200, all that good stuff. We're about to see the 50 maybe even cross below the 200, which would mean this market can go extremely positive. So something we're paying attention to are reactions and volatility towards 12.12. Looking at the 30-minute, you'll notice that is still pretty positive. So this, the 30-minute for volatility, is actually leaning more towards the, I would still say, bear side, We were very good at pointing out the points up here live, saying, hey, that is very likely to cross back down now, and it did. So that's fantastic that we were able to catch that, but we're still above this trend. So if this 30 minutes able to curl up, you actually could see another bigger surge of volatility, and we'll see if that makes a divergence. But if it doesn't, then you could see volatility come in right away for some kind of, more corrective move, or to maybe create that stronger base. So we're paying attention to a lot with volatility. I still think the most likely thing is we're going to see the 2-hour drop down, and then we'll figure out if this thing's able to break out to new all-time highs. If we break out to new all-time highs, then we are very likely to go down to 1212. So we're paying attention for the first reaction from volatility going forward. The main takeaway is we really have to be paying attention to a lot this week. This is where it's going to help you a lot to join the live video. And if you're confused at how to use these monthly, weekly expected moves and things like that, the course is on the New Year's sale, right? New Year, New Me sale going on. We're going to run this sale every single year during Christmas time and going into the new year. So it will be live for a little bit in January. So you can get it while it lasts for 90% off. You can literally learn how to trade, learn how to use these weekly expected moves and these indicators for just $100 right now. The full technical analysis course down in your description down there is fantastic. We hear tons of good things about it. You can come to the live video and ask more questions about it if you still do have some questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for getting me to 10K. We hit 10K before the year is up. Who knew that August of 2023 I was going to make a channel just trying to be helpful for retail traders and give my opinion out there and try to teach people how these markets like to move. And that's going to grow to 10,000 subs within like a year and a half. I just can't say thank you enough. It has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being a part of this community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you had a great weekend, and let's lock in and get ready for Monday, because I think we have a potential to see some traps out there this week. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.